Hi everyone. I've seen people online discussing the topic of Pirate Software and his programming skills and his game Heartbound, which has been in development for 10 years. People have said that there's only 3 hours of content in the game and it hasn't been finished. So I have no interest in insulting or attacking anyone. I don't want to insult Pirate Software, especially regarding his programming skills. I personally don't find it interesting to me to make fun of someone's programming skills. You certainly can. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you want to make fun of him for his programming skills, you can. For me, that's not something that I want to do. What I want to do is help explain why Pirate Software's game Heartbound is not finished yet after all of these years that have passed. So from my understanding, Pirate Software is using GML in GameMaker to create Heartbound. I had a look at some of Pirate Software's examples of him coding, doing live streams, and people have created videos roasting him, and I certainly don't want to do that. I don't feel that that is interesting to me. You can. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying, oh, shame on you for roasting him. Do what you want, man. No judgments here, but I want to explain why his game is not done yet. So for me, I'm a full-time games developer, and then usually a month or two out of the year, I step away from the office and I just do work outdoors. So usually I hang out in saloons in the mountains and rural areas, especially in the gold mining areas in California, and I just hang out and talk to people. If you go to saloons in those rural areas, you tend to meet people. You just hang out and talk, and then you'll find that a lot of these people own property. They're ranchers, farmers. So you just ask, hey, do you need a hand? I do ranch hand work. So then you can just find work that way, and you can meet interesting people. You can hang out, you can talk, shoot some pool, have a couple drinks, make new friends. So that's what I do outside of the office when I need to step away from programming, because programming is very challenging. But it's also mind-numbing as well. And I don't enjoy looking at a screen all day long, and it's what I do for a living, is creating games and staring at screens. I enjoy making games. I enjoy the graphics, music, programming, level design. I enjoy all of that, but man, I don't like sitting indoors and I don't like staring at a screen. So I've used a fair amount of GML, but I have only used GML up to GameMaker 8. Once they moved to the newer GameMaker, I have not used it. I moved on to other engines like Unity. So I've worked in a lot of different programming languages. I've shipped more than 10 titles across the 3DS, Wii U, and Switch. I lose count. There's no point in me counting or like bragging, saying how many titles I've done. I don't really care. Someone told me it was more than 10. So I also enjoy creating homebrew games, so I make stuff for older platforms. The most wild one that I've done is for the Pokemon Mini, the little handheld device that really was meant to play a couple Pokemon cartridges, but you can get a flash cartridge for that. You can make your own games for it. So I've made a title for the Pokemon Mini, obviously unofficial homebrew. So I enjoy the challenge of programming languages. I enjoy the challenge of creating games in different and new environments and creating them for older platforms. That's very fun to me. So what I saw from Pirate Software's programming is, look, to be honest, you can make a complete game with bad code. What we see from Pirate Software is bad code. Bad code can be functional. The problem with bad code is scalability and readability. How easy is it to read the code, and how easy it is to scale up, to increase the size of that, to keep increasing the scope of that, and to take it further and to keep adding more content. There's a huge problem with the way that Pirate Software creates his supplemental data. So when it comes to project management, there are different phases of development, but specifically when it comes to game development, for my own project management purposes for game development, I refer to 3 core phases. You have structural, supplemental, and corrective. Structural means that you are creating anything that makes the game function. The game needs structural content in order to function. So programming your battle system, your menu systems, your UI, that's structural. Supplemental is anything that contributes to the game, that increases its content but is not required in order to function. So supplemental would be like creating new weapons, creating new spells, new playable characters, creating new maps. That's all supplemental. Creating events where characters talk, that's supplemental. Corrective is when you go through and you test and you see that things do not work as intended, so you make adjustments to correct them, or you find that there is dissonance in the various mechanics and there is a lack of synergy. So you would fix that through corrective development phases. The problem that I see with Pirate Software's approach to development is that there is no separation between the structural, supplemental, and corrective. You need to separate all of those three. You need to understand what those are. And say, for example, the way that Pirate Software creates events and dialogue for Heartbound, that should be supplemental. It should not be structural. But the way that he approaches that is both structural and supplemental. Instead of just putting in the data for events, he is hard coding the logic in. And instead of creating, I'm trying to avoid jargon for programming, because I know that most of the people that are watching this don't do programming, but we have something called so instead of creating a function is basically a preset input and output. It performs something, but it allows us to make use of a design philosophy that you could call reusable code. Your code should be as reusable as possible, so you don't have to keep rewriting the exact same code. You should not be copying and pasting the exact same code in multiple places to make something work. You would have a function, and then you call the function, you say, hey, I need that code, can we use that please? That means that if you make change to that code, it will apply everywhere to the logic of the game. Pirate Software does not seem to be using functions. In functions, you can either just call it, or you can send it a value, and it can process the information based on a value. Like, say, for example, you can have a function called get player experience points. And so it'll give back a character's experience points, but you can define, give it for character 1, get character experience points, and then you can say ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, and you get that back. That does not seem to be an approach that Pirate Software takes, and it's extremely troubling because this is very basic. This is something that beginner programmers would be able to do, and it's something that is extremely important when it comes to game development. There is a lack of planning for scalability. There's a number of issues that you can ignore if your game is small. If you know that you're only making a small game, you can make a small game perfectly functional with bad code. And people are judging Pirate Software very harshly on bad readability. And I don't want to, attack anyone, make fun of anyone. I don't want to defend anyone. But when you are working alone as a solo developer, if you know that you are making a game that's just, here's a small, quick, little game, and I'll never have to work on this again, then you can use bad code. It's okay to use bad code in those situations, because then you don't have to put in the effort to learn how to program a game correctly, how to program a game well. You can use bad code for stuff that I'm just going to work on this a little bit, and I'll never look at it again. So I think it's a little unfair to make fun of Pirate Software because of bad code. If he's the only one working on it, if no one else has to look at it, if he's the only one looking at it and programming it, and if he knows that he's just going to work on it now and then never look at it again, I think it's okay to use bad code. But if you are creating a game that I'm going to have to work on this for a long time, if other people have to look at it, if you're serious about that project, then it is vital that you use best practices and you understand what can make your game unfinishable. The reason why Heartbound is not finished and it is most likely unfinishable is because the approach that Pirate Software took to create his game with the programming is not scalable. It works a little bit because he's copying and pasting code. For example, he's incrementing the value that determines what step an event is on through dialogue, like a dialogue event. He's incrementing that manually by saying switch step 3, you know, okay, now step equals 4. Why wouldn't you have a function that increments that +1? There's no reason why you wouldn't have that. It is utterly illogical to me. And again, I'm not trying to insult or attack or make fun of him. And I'm not trying to, pee on someone from a great height. That's not, I don't want to make fun of people. I've shipped titles commercially on 3DS, Wii U, and Switch, and I really enjoy working on homebrew, so I work on older platforms. And for me, that's part of the joy, part of the challenge, part of the satisfaction is pushing your skills to the limit, finding the limits, and then going beyond that and learning more, learning how to do things the best way possible, figuring out, okay, I've been doing this particular approach not very good for the last few years, and I just realized I could be doing that way better. That is so enjoyable to me. That's what I really enjoy about programming and making games, and I want to encourage more people to get into creating games. So that's why I don't want to take a negative approach and make fun of Pirate Software. I think this is an excellent opportunity to learn the wrong way to program a game, and everyone can benefit from that. So the takeaway from this video should be that Heartbound is not finishable because the programming approach that Pirate Software took is not scalable. Not being scalable means that it works if the scale is small. If you only have a couple events, if you only have a couple things to manage, then it's scalable. You can, because he manually has to put all these things in. Instead of creating reusable code, he doesn't seem to understand the concept of reusable code, which is basic beyond belief. Then you cannot scale up. If you have reusable code, scalability is very manageable. It means that you can just call those functions, you can update and change those functions as the developer, and it'll update the game across everything. You can make changes to your event system. You can update your event system the way that your game handles event logic. If you use reusable logic, if you have functions, you call those functions, it does the work in a predetermined and predictable way, and you don't have to keep copying and pasting code. Heartbound does not seem to use any reusable code or functions, and so as his project gets bigger and bigger, it becomes less manageable. It becomes way harder to find, I need to change this part. Oh no, where was that part? Where do I go to change that? The way that he creates and stores data as well is the most wrong way to do it. There's no reason why you wouldn't have event data stored in objects, and he's storing them hard-coded in arrays and in GML script, and it's bizarre to me. It is befuddling to me, and it hurts my brain to a degree that I just can't say anything without being insulting, so I won't say anything at all. But this is the problem when you sit indoors and use computers all day long and you don't do anything with your life except look at computers and video games and think that you know everything. I believe the problem that people have with Pirate Software, again, I don't have any problems with him, I don't know him personally. People say that he acts like he knows everything, he acts like he's authority, and he talks down to people, and he acts like he's the best thing in the world. I don't have any judgments on that. I'm not going to say anything negative about him, but that attitude tends to come about if you sit indoors and stare at a screen and you think, I've seen everything, I know everything. And that's why for me, it's important to go outside and to do work. I've been working on some property. I'm just helping get some rural property ready to sell. I'm working on meeting more people in saloons and meeting ranch hands and organizing, fence mending and just basic, stuff where it's just, I get to use some muscle, and I really enjoy using muscle and doing physical work. And it's a great way to just spend time outside away from a screen, and then you get just to reset and refresh your perspective on the world. And it helps you understand and realize, okay, I'm not, the biggest, baddest, most smartest dude in the world. I don't know absolutely everything. I'm not the strongest dude in the world. Stepping away from your normal environment and doing work outside helps you sort of understand and regain perspective like that. So for me, it's important. And I want to make very clear, I'm not saying that I know everything about programming, because I don't. And I constantly want to keep pushing and increasing my knowledge base when it comes to programming, because I know that I don't know everything and I want to be able to keep doing more, to do better, and to work faster on games. So it's important to me to keep improving. So I'm not saying I'm the best in the world, I know everything, and Pirate Software is some dude that people don't like. Look, I just wanted to share my take on the matter. I had a look at his code. That's my analysis. I do not believe that Heartbound will ever be finished because it's not scalable. The approach that Pirate Software took is only appropriate for smaller games. A beginner, an absolute beginner in making games would have taken this approach. Anyone with even a very basic understanding of actual genuine scalable game development would not have taken that approach. So I hope you understand. I just want to be helpful to all of you, especially if you want to get into game development. Again, this video is not meant to insult or attack anyone, so I hope this has been helpful to you. Take care, everyone. It's been so hot here in California, and I've got a lot more work to do today. Take care. All right, I'll see you.